Stephanie, and welcome to Books and Bubbly. This is the playlist where I review books that I get all bubbly talking about while I sip some bubbly. And today I'm going to be reviewing Don't Look for Me by Wendy Walker. So I'm going to drop the spoiler warning now, as I will be talking about everything that happens in this book. But let's go ahead and start with that back cover copy to see what the book promised to be about. From the best-selling author of All Is Not Forgotten comes a compelling and emotionally powerful story of a daughter's desperate search to find her mother before it's too late. They called it a walk-away. The car abandoned for miles from home, the note found at a nearby hotel, the shattered family. It happens all the time. Women disappear, desperate to start over. But what really happened to Molly Clark? The night Molly disappeared began with a storm, running out of gas, and a man offering her a ride to safety. But when the doors lock shut, Molly begins to suspect she has made a terrible mistake. A new lead brings Molly's daughter, Nicole, back to the small, desolate town where her mother was last seen to renew the desperate search. The locals are sympathetic and eager to help. The innkeeper, the bartender, even the police. Until secrets begin to reveal themselves, and Nicole comes closer to the truth about that night and the dangers surrounding her. So this is not my first Walker book. I've read another piece by her, and I just really like her writing, and so I was really excited for this. I think her stories are well plotted, well paced, and she features interesting characters. And that line of thinking really held up in this book. I tore through this, and I think I finished it in like a day and a half because I was so engrossed in the story. I was really curious why Molly was abducted, and then seeing Nicole, her daughter, come chasing her and knowing that she's in danger really amped up the tension and kept it up throughout the rest of the book. We get layers here, such as dealing with grief, needing to survive, needing to make amends, and even to ask for forgiveness in this book. I will say this was also a thriller that actually read like a thriller. It was a thriller plus, as everything is adding a stupid plus sign to everything these days. But it was a thriller that actually had some weight and substance. I've read so many thrillers this year that I was simply bored with, or was actually just waiting for the main character to just die already. I did not feel that way with this. It was the right amount of suspenseful, dramatic, and everything and everyone was just a bit sinister, and you don't really know who to trust. It was great. The cast of characters for this book really just works. I also think that Walker does a good job of creating characters that are complex, flawed, and they read as real human beings. They're not always great or perfect, but they're not utterly unlikable either. I understood them. Well, I guess most of them. I have to say, I do feel a little bad for Molly, as her living children kind of suck. So yeah, spoiler alert, you find out pretty early in the book that Annie was one of Molly's daughters. She was 9 years old, and Molly accidentally killed her by hitting her with a car. So Molly obviously has a ton of grief about that, but so does Nicole, who was supposed to be watching Annie and wasn't really paying attention when Annie ran out the door to go say hi to Mom when Mom was getting home. Molly was distracted, and Annie suffered the consequences. And so both Molly and Nicole are dealing with their own grief. Nicole, in a way, is taking it out on herself as well as on her mother. So they're both kind of navigating that area. But I also really didn't like their son, Evan. And like the husband, he exists, but he's kind of just a background character. Like his biggest storyline is that they think he's having an affair. And that's why Nicole is pretty pissed that he just kind of seems to be like, my wife left. Okay, nobody really misses her. Even their son, Evan, kind of feels that way. And throughout the whole book, I was really just hoping that Evan would choke on a football. Like, I guess it does add to the story in that it shows how much Molly really does love her family, even if it seems that they don't love her back. It could just be so easy to give up once she realizes the situation that she's in, being kidnapped and abducted, and basically being told, like, hey, here's a new 9-year-old girl for you to take care of. But she doesn't. She has a family that she wants to be a part of. She has a life that's worth living, and she wants to get back to it. But can she? I will have to say, like, it does kind of raise the question of what's her real purpose here, because it doesn't seem like it's actually to help Alice, the little girl that lives with her abductor Mick. And you find out that it's not. We find out that Mick really wants Nicole and knew she could be lured back with news about her mother. Because he can do that because Mick's really a police officer, also operating under the name of Reyes. So it makes it very easy for him to get what he wants. He has been stalking Molly to figure out like her patterns and everything so then he could kidnap her and then instigate Nicole coming back. I do think Walker does a really good job of dropping that reveal and then just showing us how close to being in danger Nicole really is. Even though we also want her to find her mother too. You want her to find her, but you also don't, because then you know she's going to be trapped. I will say there were a few things that I didn't like, but they're mostly minor things, like not jarring plot holes or terrible characters or anything. One was the twist/reveal at the end that Daisy, who looks just like Nicole and is Alice's biological mother, is alive. So throughout the book, Nicole comes across information that there's a girl that looked just like her that also went missing years ago. Then you find out she's still missing, but she's still alive because we're also led to assume that she's dead based on the way Alice talks about her. I didn't mind the twist that Daisy was actually alive. She turns into a cartoon villain when she finally makes her grand entrance and just is expositing all over the place. Like, Daisy rolls onto the scene and just explains the whole backstory. Like, I actually tabbed it just because it drove me a little crazy, but... So Daisy's made her big reveal. This is page 317 of the printed version. So, you could have gone anywhere, started over. It just pisses me off. I used to think you were so smart, that we were going to build a little fortune and get the hell out of here together. But you had no imagination. Just your little cons and scams. I told you I wanted more. You promised to give it to me if I stayed with you and had the kid. But no, that was all just a con you pulled on me, making me need you, making me have to stay. It's also clear now how weak you are. I should have gone to the train station with the chief, gone to Boston and gotten rid of it. I could have been anything. I could have gone to college. But I believed you, and you promised me. You said we would make it out. That's all I ever wanted, to get the hell out of Hastings. But you're a coward and a liar. And then, well, it's done, so now we have to clean this up. And the shot. One shot fired at Mick, hitting him dead on. So she shoots Mick, or Reyes, whatever you want to call him, and further explains to the hotel owner in town, who has been helping Nicole with all of this stuff, find out the hotel owner, Roger, is also Daisy's old boyfriend and the father of Alice. And she's basically like, Roger, think about it. Do you know what's been going on? We've been here this whole time, for 10 years, right under your nose, living in that house through the woods, running the cons, on the roads, at the casino. It's been so easy. And raising this girl, your girl. Don't tell me you're not happy he's dead. You wanted him dead when he said those things to you, right? Just now, when he told you how I never loved you, how I would never have your baby. He wasn't lying. And so then Roger is basically like, well, why the hell did he kidnap Molly then? Well, I tell you, you have to ask him yourself, but that ship has sailed. It's like I said, because I left him for good. I've left him before, plenty of times, when I needed a break from him, from this, she looked quickly at her daughter. But this time I didn't come back. I couldn't stand the sight of him anymore. It made my skin crawl. Every night, breaking into my room, getting into my bed. I even tried sleeping with Alice. Right, Alice? You remember that, don't you? How he came into bed with us? That was the last straw. It was like living with a puppy dog who follows you everywhere you go. It had been 10 years. I did my part, and still no fortune. No better life, still in this place where my father beat me and my mother starved me. I wasn't going to stay for one more second. I mean, I get it, but for the book to have so much subtlety about everything else, it read a little bit over the top, and it was really info dumpy. Like, I get that we need the explanation behind certain twists and reveals, but it didn't feel natural for the character to talk that way. Like, it really just felt like it was all, let me tell you exactly what's going on so we're all on the same page. I'm going to point a gun at you and threaten you, but I need you to listen. Even though I plan on killing you anyway, so it doesn't matter if you know the truth or not, haha. The ending and final reveal was truly what kept this from being a 5-star read for me. I felt like we could have had more clues to set up the twist that Daisy was alive the whole time and watching it play out, but it's also not the worst twist in the world either. I wasn't that angry at it. I could see it. I had wished it was something else. Another thing that kind of started to jump out at me was just Molly's repetition of the things that happened with Annie. I understand that it would be on her mind and weighing on her, but I get it. I don't need it repeated every single chapter. On the one hand, it is one thing that works really well in Walker's work. She shows broken people, morally gray people, how our psychology changes and what we're willing to do to survive or protect loved ones. We are complex, and so are her characters. But it just, after a while, I was like, I get it. You miss your daughter. Like, I understand. I know this is always on your mind. I don't need you constantly talking about Annie at me. I'm even gonna say, like, even the 9-year-old Alice, like, is she a kid? Is she a victim? Or is she in on everything and scary and dangerous in her own right? Does she want to inflict pain too? Yes, to all of it. Oh, speaking of Alice, one other thing that really stuck out to me is that Alice is supposed to be like 9 years old, yet she's constantly being carried around by Mick and even Molly. And like, I assume when I hear about a child being picked up, like they're being picked up and put on a hip, you're gonna tell me that these people, like especially Molly, who has been kidnapped from her home, probably isn't being fed super well, she's carrying around this 9-year-old on her hip? Like, is it just me, or are these characters freakishly strong to be carrying around a 9-year-old? Or like, unless they're doing it some other way, but I don't know. It really jumped out at me, and I'm like, if she was 5, sure, but 9? Anywho, this was still a fabulous thriller, even with some of those minor annoyances. I easily rated this 4 out of 5 stars. Again, would have gotten 5 stars, I think, if that ending had been reworked a little bit. But I would definitely recommend reading this book on a rainy day, as it is a page-turner and a fabulous read. I'm definitely going to continue to add Walker's works to my to-be-read pile, as I really enjoyed this and just her overall style. So, have you read Don't Look For Me by Wendy Walker? Let me know what you thought of it, or what other Wendy Walker books I need to add to my to-be-read pile, or any other recommendations of books that are like Walker's works. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.